Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Tonight I will be doing an interview or a presentation with Howard University on the topic autism. I will be giving my personal opinion on some of the struggles I faced as a parent raising a high-functioning autistic child. So if that is something that you are interested in hearing about, please stay tuned. I would love for you to watch this video. Also, drop some of your comments down in the comment sections about if you have an autistic child, what are some of the interventions, what are some of the struggles that you faced as a parent. My video will be solely on my struggles or some of the things that I faced raising an autistic child. I do have background in mental health as well as substance abuse, but my opinion tonight will not be on the professional side of my opinion, but more on the struggles I personally faced. One of the things I want you guys to keep in mind is that when you are working with autism, there are different levels to autism, and some of the struggles that I may talk about tonight, you may not have endured some of those struggles with your child. So that's not to say that symptoms your child is facing is not autism or whatever symptoms my son is facing is not autism. Autism is a broad spectrum. As we know, it is under the neurodevelopmental disorder in the DSM-5, so it does comes with a lot of similarities to some of the other diagnoses or disorders that are under that spectrum. So please keep it in mind. Some of the symptoms that a child with autism may display are similar to some of the symptoms that a child with ADHD may also exhibit. So be careful not to be too quick to diagnose your child because you see one symptoms. So yes, guys, my son Zyir, who is autistic, also has a channel on here, a children channel with his younger brother, Zyir and Zyir. I would love for you guys to check them out. It details or it depicts his life, his love for reading, his love for building toys, his just love overall for his growth with this disability. So if that is something that you're interested in, go ahead, check Zyir and Zyir out. So without further ado, guys, stay tuned and keep on watching with this awesome presentation. I am super excited to be able to share my opinion with you guys. So voila.
And she is right now working on her LPC supervision. So she is in the process of becoming a licensed professional counselor. So what I'm going to do is give her an opportunity just to talk about her family. I'm going to try to keep the spoilers, but I saw a cute video of her son today. So I'll let her share a little bit about her story. And then if you all have any questions, you all can feel free to jump in. Okay? All right.
Hi, everyone. How are we doing tonight? My name is Trevine Gordon, and as Miss Dillard said, I am a LPC in resident. I'm also a CSAC substance abuse counselor in resident. I have a 6-year-old who is high-functioning autistic. And I guess I will be sharing some things about my struggle as a parent, and not from the professional side, but the struggles I faced as a parent, and just the journey to get Zyir to where he is. So to start out, Zyir did not meet the milestone for speech, and as per the developmental stages, the child is supposed to start talking at 18 months. Well, at 18 months, Zyir was not talking. He was not even at 2 words. And so when we went into the doctor, he would ask, well, is he at 20 words? And we were like, well, no, he's not even at 1. And so that's when we figured out that there was some sort of delay. However, we did not feel that we were getting all of the support and the resources that we needed from his pediatrician. And on top of that, our insurance at the time denied speech therapy. According to them, they claimed that he would talk eventually, and because it is under the neurodevelopmental disorder of speech and communication, it did not meet the criteria for insurance. So during the onset of the symptoms, we had to pay out of pocket every week for the speech therapy, which can be a little pricey. So after that, we end up moving into a different district, still in Richmond, and we changed pediatrician. Our new pediatrician told us about the Chesterfield Special Ed program for children with disabilities. And so we contacted the necessary parties and we got sent to our school district. When we got sent to our school district, we were told that he would need to do an assessment through the county. Well, they came out, about within 4 or 5 days of us reaching out, and they did a thorough assessment. He was approved for the SPED program in the school district that he would naturally go to. And so that's how we ended up starting services. But prior to the services, we would notice that Zyir wouldn't talk. There were a lot of emotional symptoms. There were a lot of crying. And so we would have to come up with interventions on our own to try and communicate with him. In that, because he was not talking, obviously we could not talk back to him to get a response. So we started mimicking emotions for him to start picking up on emotions. And we would draw that on paper and we would, are you happy? This is what happy means. Oh, are you sad? This is what sad means. And so eventually he started picking up on those sort of cues and he started mimicking our emotions. And so when we were able to get him into the SPED program, he was 3 at the time when he got into the SPED program, and he got into the SPED program, the only child not talking. And it was heart-wrenching because we were so worried to send him to school not knowing what could potentially happen if a child would hit him, if they would abuse him, and he would not be able to verbalize that to us. However, he had 2 awesome teachers who, I believe, in my opinion, were really trained to deal with children with disabilities. And so we felt super comfortable letting Zyir go every day. And so according with the school program in Chesterfield, they use what they call ABA therapy, which incorporates a hands-on technique with the children along with speech therapy incorporated. So we did not have to pay for speech therapy anymore because the school was now providing us with speech therapy. We went from having to pay an hour, 2 to 3 hours per week, to Zyir getting an hour every day in this program. And so within the first year, we saw tremendous growth, like superb growth, where Zyir was now talking. Like literally, some of it was still baby gibberish, but he was just talking, would not stop. And so we started accepting the baby gibberish as talk, right? Because it was different before. There was no sound, there was no talk. And so we were happy to hear the baby gibberish to the point we started talking baby gibberish with him. Be like, whatever it was he was saying, we were trying to say that back in baby gibberish. But eventually, with the program and the interventions, we continued, of course, on our end with a lot of interventions. One of the things we incorporated early on out was reading. We read to Zyir every single night, even though we know he could not read. And we would record him, and whatever the baby gibberish was, we would record him until he would start getting books and it was baby gibberish, but he was turning the pages and he was pretending that he was reading. And so we would record that. And so fast forward, now he's 6 and his biggest strength is reading. And we could not be more proud because even though there are still some communication delay and there are some linguistic issues, he has improved beyond measures. And so let me backtrack. One of the stuff we also had to do with Zyir, we had to do a tongue surgery, right? With some autistic children, the tissues under their tongue are not properly developed. And what happens is that there's limited space between the tongue and the tissue, which limits their ability to move their tongue up and down like normal people do to form words. And so we had to do a tongue surgery, and it was really painful because they had to put him to sleep to do the surgery. But about a month after the surgery, we saw a big difference. He was starting to roll his tongue. He was starting to enunciate properly. And we were like, whoa. So there has been a few steps or a lot of interventions that we had to put into place early on. And as a parent, we were very reluctant at first because we were very concerned about the label. And so we did not want to have to think about that diagnosis, right? Because as you know, once there's a diagnosis, it follows you for the rest of your life. And so we were very concerned about how people would perceive him and how people would accept him. And once we were able to get over our fears, we were able to truly see Zyir for who he is. And so fast forward today, he is reading 2 to 3 books per day. And as Miss Dillard said, he just started his own YouTube channel, Reading Corner with Zyir. He's animated, he has character, and he is now doing subtraction. He's, performing at a grade 3 level with the, the subtraction or the minus of some communication delay still. But the struggles as a parent, I would say is insurance not wanting to pay or to cover the cost, the early costs of the onset of the diagnosis, or not the diagnosis, but the symptoms, because they cannot be diagnosed prior to grade school. So for the initial first 2 years, he was only on paper as speech delay. And under the neurodevelopmental disorder, there's no speech delay. It is either communication delay or autism spectrum. And so there had to be a diagnosis going into grade school. So we're super proud of Zion's progress. We fought tooth and nail with the insurance company, but thankful to the county and the programs that were in the county, we were able to meet the needs of Zyir with the help of the county.
So I'm gonna hop in with some questions that I already have the answers to.
Okay.
But what was it like when you had that period of time where you could see that there was a problem happening with Zyir, but
Mm-hmm.
you weren't getting the support from insurance? So you have your son there, he's struggling, and you as mom recognize that he's struggling, but there's no supports there. What was that like for you?
Oh, I was frustrated. I remember I would cry about it, but it was just being angry. And I know I felt anger at the time with the insurance, because when you're paying for insurance, you're expecting that they're going to support you. And that was not what we got. And so that frustration led to anger. But from that anger, I had to improvise, right? Because during the first year, there were no services. I became teacher mommy, right? I was buying Dollar Tree stuff literally every week. We had a chalkboard, we had markers, pens, papers. Like, we literally improvised to work with him at the level that we could, being non-teachers, right? And so those were really the things we had to do. We had to step up as parents and figure out how to interact with him. And as a result, we became more experts in understanding not only the diagnosis, but also the symptoms and the behaviors. We were able to start differentiating between autism symptoms and ADHD symptoms, because a lot of the symptoms in autism are very similar to that of ADHD. And so when you have a child who exhibits a lot of emotions and hyperactivity, that can sometimes be misconstrued for ADHD, when in reality, the lack of communication portion of autism is what causes those similar symptoms of ADHD, such as the hyperactivity, the emotional symptoms here. So we became experts before even, you know, truly understanding what we were working with.
Anybody else have any questions? I have others, but I'll let you all jump in.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, you were lucky enough to be able to move and find a school that, like, gave you speech therapy and stuff like that. And I know that lack of resource is, like, a big issue in, like, a lot of mental health things and, like, speech therapy with kids and adults and stuff like that. What advice would you give to somebody that doesn't have the opportunity to move to a school and still struggles with money or insurance?
So one of the things I learned is that the Department of Social Services will help with any disorders that are under the neurodevelopmental disorder. However, there still will be some struggles because they do look at your finances. So if your finances or your income is over a certain threshold, then you will find some struggles there. But I guess the best advice that I would give a parent who may face some of the struggles as it relates to insurance would definitely be to check out YouTube, do some research. You would be surprised the material that you can find on YouTube, that even if you only have a high school education, some of the material are so simplified where you can apply them in your everyday life with your child. So don't just rely solely on the insurance to provide you with the interventions. You definitely want to do the homework as a parent and improvise. That would be the best advice I can give you, because there will be struggles. You will have pushback from the insurance company, but there are still programs in the community that will assist. But as I said, there are still some thresholds that you have to meet to be able to get that.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome, my dear. Meltdown, then she will pull him from the class to help calm him down, redirect him to get him back to where he can go back into the class. So we have a team. And in the IEP is broken down into different sections. So he's not in the class with the students for the whole day. As I mentioned earlier, he's high functioning. So he's doing superb in English, math, and reading. So when the regular class have reading, he's pulled to do advanced work. So he's getting one-on-one attention, one-on-one time based on his needs, his strengths, as well as his weaknesses. So the IEP caters to the strengths and the weaknesses.
All right. I was just wondering, do you ever have any trouble with following the IEP? And if you do, what do you do to overcome that?
I've not had any issues the past 2 years. The previous 2 years was awesome because the classroom was smaller, and so they had 2 teachers, so the one-on-one interaction was way better. As of this year in first grade, there are 19 students in his class. So as a result, because of COVID, they're limited on teachers. So we do have where there are days when I'm being called like, hey, Zyir is having a meltdown. He's having an emotional meltdown. We don't have, anyone to reach out or to work with him. And so that's when I will come in and I literally have to get on the phone to try to work with him. So not necessarily an issue with the IEP, but because of COVID and the short staff, some teachers not wanting to take the COVID vaccination and they're not in school, it presents us with some challenges there. I hope I answered your question.
That just gave me another idea for a question. How did COVID really affect? Because I know that speech therapy is a really hard thing to learn from YouTube. I'm assuming and I'm assuming especially over Zoom for a kid that's under 5 years old that could be extremely difficult. So
you all let me prepare you for this answer that you're about to give.
Listen. It was a struggle last year. Last year was the biggest struggle of our lives. So Zion started out in the virtual, and early on, within 2 weeks, we realized we're going to be in class with him, because with the system, they're clicking from different apps. And if he has comprehension issues, obviously, if the teacher is on the computer telling him to do something, he's not going to understand. So my husband works from home because of COVID. And so he had to literally sit there with him and click throughout the day, you know, to everything. And it became a frustration because when it was time for him to go to work, he was still in school. So we decided after 1 month that we were going to pull him from virtual, and we went ahead and we purchased our own curriculum, and we did that on our own time. So that made it a lot easier for us because we were able to do work with him on our own time, and it was more fun. He didn't feel pressured in sitting all day around the computer, and plus we could help him maneuver to help him build his computer skills on our own time. So last year was a struggle that saw us having to take on another teacher role, pulling him all together, buying our own curriculum, teaching him, and then struggle with him being able to differentiate from playtime. You're at home, because he saw this as his safe place, home, not school. And so when it was time to sit down and do work, it was like, but I want to play. And it's like, no, it's school time. And he's like, I'm not at school. And so it was a big struggle. It was a huge struggle for us.
And then my follow-up question is, like, now that he's back in school, is he still on the right track based from y'all's curriculum?
Absolutely. Well, we do feel that he is somewhat going at a slower pace. We purchased the Abeka curriculum. It is really geared on your writing and mathematics, which is why he's so advanced in math. And so leaving that curriculum to go back to a public school curriculum, we see a lot of challenges. For the last 2 weeks, we've been getting calls from school like, hey, he's finished with his work way ahead of time. He's like Flash. That's what they're calling him, Flash. You know, and so they're pulling him so that the other students can finish their work. So we've seen where he's working at a faster pace, and now, not that he's regressing, but it is a slower pace than what he has now become accustomed to over the last year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we talked about Zion, but there's another. There's Zyir. And so how is Zyir impacted by kind of Zion? What is their relationship like?
They are peas in a pod, because as you know, the younger child coming up usually imitates and mimics what the older child does. And because of COVID and Zion being stuck in the house with Zyir, a lot of the things that we did with Zion, Zyir saw, started mimicking. So not only is Zyir, well, he can't write, but Zyir is literally spelling up. He is now doing 2 times table at 3. And it's crazy because we hear him singing it, and it didn't dawn on us that he was literally saying the 2 times table. And that's because he hears Zion, and Zion is usually singing it. So he picks up on the music, and now he's getting advanced. So we are ready for him to go to school. We are super ready for him to go to school. But he has picked up a lot from Zion to where he could literally be way more advanced than Zion at Zion's age than when he gets there.
I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
So since you have another kid, is it Zyir? Am I saying it correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a beautiful name. I love
Thank you.
But since you have another kid, I know he's young, but do you ever worry about maybe like jealousy issues due to Zion having, that special disability that makes you have to put special attention towards him?
That's a great question. Oh my goodness. That's an awesome question. So not necessarily. We realized Zion, because Zion was accustomed to being the only child, Zyir is very on the clingy side. Zion do exhibit that social aspect of autism where he's not very lovey-dovey, as I should say, but he's not always on you. He wants his space and he'll come to you when he wants it. So we didn't have to worry about put Zyir away and be like, come on, come give me a hug. Like, give me kisses, right? One of the biggest struggles was that his grandmother is very kissy, huggy. And she would say, Zion, give me a hug. And he'll be, no. But now he's like, Nana, may I have a hug? So the jealousy is coming more from Zion and not from the little one.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Any
All right, my last question.
Go ahead.
All right, my last question. How do you help family members understand autism and Zion? So you and your husband have a good understanding of it, but how do you help family members understand kind of what Zion's needs are?
So as it relates to, and I'm going to separate the families because, as you know, I'm from Jamaica and my husband is from here. And so it's two different cultures. And I'll speak of the Jamaican culture first. In Jamaica, mental health is not a big thing. Now the younger generation is taking more to mental health because we're becoming a lot more diverse. We're more cultured, and so the older generation is still very set in the old culture of Jamaica, where if they see something that looks different, they want to take you to church for you to get prayer or something of that sort. So a lot of my family members did not understand what autism is, and so during the onset, they would say, well, what is wrong with him? They would ask, but they would not say, is he slow? Because a lot of times people want to say slow, right? They label the child as slow. And so I had to explain that to my family. Well, he has speech delay. And then they would say, well, what is speech delay? He just needs to come to Jamaica so he can be around us and he'll talk. Like, still just stuck in that one-dimensional mind frame because of our culture. So that wasn't a big struggle, but I literally had to explain to them what it was, break it down. And so when Zion went to Jamaica in the summer, they were able to meet him, see him, and understand. And it was not a problem, because when we were in Jamaica, a lot of the issues that we were seeing here with Zion, we didn't have that problem, right? He was just excited to be there and they gravitated to him. So they were able to put a face onto what I was saying was wrong with him. As it relates to my husband's family, there was no issues at all. They're from here. They understood what it was, and so there was never any questions. So we really didn't have to break it down for my husband's side of family. He was well received.
And so just since Trevine did mention her being from Jamaica, that does also mean, I'm just throwing this out there, Zion does understand patois, which is a whole, that's just another interesting thing. Because when I'm around Trevine and she speaks patois, I do not know what's going on. So it's cool that Zion is able to understand that as well.
Fully. And that's the problem. Fully, with no delay, no hiccups. I'll say something and he gets moving. And I'm like, that's weird. But that's what when you have that dual language, it has its effects sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody have any other questions before we let Trevine go? She just got in, so we're going to let her get to her family.
I have a quick question. I'm really interested in language development and the way that knowing multiple languages affects kids as they grow up. I think that's just so cool. So have you seen a difference in the way that he has been able to learn English and been able to learn, sorry, I didn't quite catch
Patois.
the pronunciation. Sorry?
So,
Patois.
Patois?
yes.
Okay. Like, did you see a difference between the two, in terms of how he was able to understand them and, like, really, I guess just develop an understanding of both of them?
I'm going to be biased and say no, I did not see one. But obviously there is going to be a difference, given that I'm the minority in my house, meaning that I'm the only person in my house that speaks Patois. So the majority language that's spoken around him is English. So I'm going to be not biased, but truthfully say that he picked on more to English faster than he did for Patois. Reason being, Patois is a dialect with four different languages, or three I should say. It's Spanish, English, and then African languages. So it's a mixture of both. So it can be very confusing, especially for a person who is still having language issues. There's a deficit in the brain that connects your the linguistic part of your brain with language. So can you imagine poor Zion? He's trying to learn English, but then here comes mommy. It can be confusing. So, and then I'm the only one, so he's around more people who are speaking English, so he is more exposed to English than Patois. So I would say he picked on more to English and was confused when I talked to him, because sometimes I could see his facial expressions like, what is she saying? But in reality, because I was very close with him, and I talked Patois every day, non-stop, all the time to him, there was no English speaking from me. I think the comprehension part came naturally, and he didn't have to try to learn to talk the dialect, but just more to understand, because Patois is a spoken language, not a written language. So I think that's where the difference came in, if that makes sense.
So interesting. Thank you. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Anyone else? All right, Trevine, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for having me, and you guys enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye. So, hey guys, what do you think about that information? What are your thoughts on autism? What are your thoughts about some of the struggles that a parent may face as it relates to autism and the services, the resources that they may need to address the needs of the child? As you heard, we went through a lot of struggles. We went through the insurance company saying no, to us having to pay out of pocket, to us having to improvise to help our sons develop at the time when we weren't getting professional help. And that propelled us into becoming a little bit more experts into dealing with our son. Now, that is not to say that some of the symptoms and the behaviors of Zion aren't going to be similar to your child, or they may be different. With Zion, his fine motor skills, his gross motor skills are on point. Zion reads when there's a material in front of him, and he struggles when there's no material in front of him. So he struggles with piecing the language and words together to form sentences and to have a consistent dialogue back and forth. But nonetheless, guys, there are a lot of interventions out there that you can cater to, that can cater to your child's needs. You just really have to do the homework and to tap into it. I explored a lot of things. I even explored getting financial help from the government, and I was told, you don't meet the qualifications, your salary is too much. So I was not taking just no for an answer. I tried everything. I was going into areas, even though I knew they would say no, I still went into those areas with hopes, because one of the things was if he had qualified for, I believe, his SSI, we were going to use that to put him into private school. But then we were told, no, your income is too much. So guys, do your research. Tap into those resources. Check out your school district. We did not know anything about the SPED program in our area until our pediatrician gave us that information. So tack into every little avenue that you can. You will be surprised what is out there for you. So again, guys, I hope this was helpful. That really pushed me into the mental health field. And so my goal after getting licensed will be primarily to work with children. And so right now I am in residency, and I do work primarily with children because I do see a shortage of counselors working with children in that area. So again, guys, let me know what your thoughts were. And thank you guys for stopping by. As mentioned earlier on in the video, check Zyir and Zyr's channel out. I will have a link to their channel down below so that your children can check them out.
Green for raccoon.
Put it on the front so they can see it. Put it on the front, right here. Okay.
Let's put them into the colors.
Mm-hmm.
In the cup. Let's put them in the colors in the cup.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put them in.
No, don't put them inside.
Why not?
You don't want to get color all over them. What color is that? You have it in the front of the wrong one.
I am a robot cheese. I'm a robot cheese. I'm being my robot. Get in my time, robot. Let's use a spoon to mix it up.
No, you don't need to mix it up. All right, so now tell them you're going to put the balloon.
It needs to miss green.
All right, so now tell them you're going to put the balloon over the bottle.
Okay.
Ready? Go. Pull it up and squeeze it. Let it go.